Hi, this is Saad from RentViewer. In the previous video, we walked through the Manufactured Housing Performance Playbook and the 7-question framework for diving deeper into understanding the performance of your manufactured housing portfolio. In this video, we're going to answer the first question, are we profitable? And we're going to answer this question and the remaining questions in the series of videos using the RentViewer Asset Management Studio. You can find out more about the Asset Management Studio on the RentViewer website. The studio aggregates your company's data in one place and serves as a single source of truth. And it also includes various data visualizations to help you analyze things like profitability, collections, investment performance, and more. So back to analyzing the performance of our portfolio. So here I'm connected to a demo data set in the Asset Management Studio. And I'm going to answer the question, are we profitable, by using these visualizations. I'm going to start off by looking at the overall portfolio using some scatter plots. And then look more closely at the income and expenses. And also take a high-level look at different KPIs. And finally, drill into individual general ledger transactions for the properties that I'm interested in to look for interesting, useful information that can help me understand where money is going. So even if your overall portfolio is profitable, not all communities are contributing the same. Some communities are powering your portfolio and generating cash, and others are dragging the portfolio down. So let's start with a scatter plot showing the NOI and the size of the communities. So if you look over here on the vertical axis, I have the NOI, and on the bottom, horizontally, the number of units. So these are my bigger communities that are on this side. And ideally, on this chart, I want all the dots to be in the upper part of the dot, showing high NOI. Now, looking over here, I do see a couple of problem areas that these are some of my larger properties, 100 units and about 140 units here, that have a negative NOI. So I'm going to pay attention to this. Another plot I'm going to look at is looking at operating income and operating expense. So on the vertical side, I have my operating income, and on the horizontal is the operating expense. And I can adjust this so that I can just focus on the properties I'm interested in, because I did see a couple that seem to be in the negative, and I want to pay more attention to them. So here they are again. So high operating expense over here for a beach lane, and another one here that has relatively low operating income, but yet high operating expense, and that is Hemlock Hollow. So I'm going to pay more attention to these two because these are the ones that seem to be dragging down my portfolio. Ideally, I want my properties to be in the upper left quadrant of this scatter plot, because that means high operating income and low operating expense. So let's dig into these two properties in more detail and try to understand what's going on. So I'm going to look at another chart here, which gives me an overall picture of the performance of these properties relative to each other. So on this visualization, I'm looking at NOI, operating income, operating expense, and the same KPIs on a per unit basis. And I can apply a filter here so I can look at only the tenant-owned homes or the park-owned homes at a time, so that the data is much more meaningful. So I'm looking over here, and I can see there are two properties that have a negative NOI, and a pretty substantial negative NOI per unit as well, Hemlock Hills and Beach Lane. So Going further down, I'm going to look at the operating income. And in fact, I'll just click on Beach Lane here. And the rest of the visualization will update so I can focus on just this property. And here it is. I can see that the operating income is below average, operating income per unit. And I'm going to scroll down to look at the operating expense here. And here's Beach Lane again. And well, good that the operating expense is lower as well, lower than average. And but look at what a high number this is. The black line is the average of the properties that I've selected. And there is a yellow line here, yellow dotted line that tells me what the median is and whether the property I'm looking at is above or below the median of the ones selected in my portfolio. So this gives me pretty useful information to know, at least in this review cycle, which properties to spend time trying to understand in more detail. So let's go to another visualization to look at the other financial KPIs for these properties. So here I'm just going to focus on Beach Lane again. And so these are some of the KPIs that I assume you're already tracking. And the colored bars tell me what the actual number is and then what the budget was for these as well. And so just looking at this particular property, I can see that the total income somewhat has declined over here. Total expense has also been going down somewhat. You can also look individually at the CapEx and what I've spent on the property versus the homes as well. I'm also going to look at the other property that was Hemlock Hollow, and can see over here the expense has been declining, but the income has definitely been declining quite substantially. And there has been, I've been spending more on the CapEx than I had budgeted over here. So this is useful information for me. And now what I'm going to do is drill down even further to see if there are any outliers or unusual expenses here. So I'm going to go to another visualization, the expense analysis. In the RentViewer catalog, this one is called RV19, expense analysis. And so here I'll just focus on the expense transactions from the general ledger. And over here, every individual expenditure for the selected property is visible to me here. And I can also visualize these items over here. And I can see what the trend has been over the years. This has been the overall trend. And then this allows me to compare the same month year over year, and I can just see if I had an unusual year or an unusual event in any of the past years. So having all this data in front of me enables me to really drill down and understand what's going on with a particular property and start narrowing down on the problems that I need to pay attention to and make part of my improvement plan. Now, whenever we've got an issue with income and profitability, it points to typically two other things: whether or not my occupancy is where it needs to be, both physical occupancy and economic occupancy, and then am I collecting the rent that I'm owed? So that's the subject of the next two questions in the playbook. So going back to the playbook, I hope you got a feel for the different ways in which data can be visualized and the KPIs that are useful for understanding the profitability. In the next video in this series, I'm going to address the second question: are the lots and homes filled? So this is Saad from RentViewer, and please reach out with any feedback for me or questions. I'll see you in the next video.